Have you ever noticed how life starts to feel smaller the longer you stay comfortable? Every time you choose safety over growth, your comfort zone shrinks. Slowly, silently, until one day you wake up unmotivated, uninspired, and stuck in the same patterns. The truth is, comfort zone feels safe, but it's costing you your potential. In this episode, we're diving into how the comfort zone traps you, what it's doing to your mental health, and how to break free before it's too late. My name's Michael Perry, and I'm joined today by Justin Gates, and this is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we are diving into the comfort zone, one of my favorite topics. I know I struggled with it in my past. I see so many people in my life struggling with it today. And I think everyone does to one degree or another, because it's not just this bubble. It is a multi-layered, different areas of our life where we end up getting comfortable and slowly dropping the ball until we don't realize it, until it's too late.
Yeah. And I hate this word because it sounds really nice and pleasant and harmless. I'm in the comfort zone. This is fun. But it's not a good place. Not if you're there for too long. And we're not talking about actual comforts, physical, good health. You know, it's kind of a horrible word because it is a state of mind where you are avoiding sometimes or unwilling to look at reality where there's actual stress and risk and uncertainty, right?
Yeah, the deeper you go with that, the more your blinders just...
Right. And you have this illusion of control. Like, oh, I always know what to expect. I must be in a good place. Or I don't ever feel threatened. I must be in a good place.
Nope.
And you're kind of under this illusion that you can move through life with ease. And that's all great. If you want to be stuck, then go for it. But this idea offends the teachings of Ashla, because while it may feel safe, it may not actually be safe, but it feels that way, it also stunts your growth. Because we live in this illusion that we are secure, when in reality we're stuck.
Well, and you used an analogy when we were talking about this offline about the frog in the pot, right? Which we've referenced before on this podcast, but you know, you're in the water, everything's fine. Well, that temperature's going up and going up degree by degree. You don't notice it because you're just sitting there. Meanwhile, slowly it's starting to boil around you and cook you alive.
Yeah, it does. You know, let's kind of hit this illusion of safety, because this is a really important aspect of this comfort zone. Because you know, the water's warming up. Oh man, it's almost like a sauna, like a spa. I'm getting my muscles relaxed, right? But
you know,
there's something that whispers to you, stay here, don't risk it, man. Don't change. You're good. You're good where you're at. But the truth is, staying in this place for too long, it breeds stagnation. And we talked about this a little bit on a different show, where we talked about making sure that we don't
get complacent.
What was that axiom that we used?
Complacency leads to stagnation.
Yeah. So hold on a second. I have it on. I wrote it in my notes and I can't find it. Scratch that. Oh, so we did a show, I don't know how many episodes ago. We're up to 55 episodes put out so far. This will be episode 56. Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Right. It feels like we just started doing this, but we did a show on the axiom decay comes from complacency, and this is another angle of that axiom, really. So we have this illusion of safety, right? But staying in comfort too long it breeds this stagnation, and it offends the teachings of Ashla. And I know that sounds dramatic, but it does, because Ashla it pushes us to grow, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit more. But think about your relationships. People might stay in these unhealthy partnerships, and they do all the time. We know them. We know people. You and I know people. You guys know people. You may be one of them, right? Because it feels familiar, even though it's not fulfilling at all. Yeah. Or jobs. People stay in jobs that just suck the marrow out of their bones. Because, well, at least I know my bills are covered, right? So, or even personal goals. We keep putting off pursuing a dream because failure feels too risky. So we settle for what? Good enough. What's the old saying that the old guys use? Good enough for government work, right? So You ever heard that? You ever heard that saying?
I have not, but that's great.
That's what the old heads say, man. You know, it's good enough for government work.
Man, but it's so true. I mean, it's like, it's more than just a lifestyle. It is a psychological state where stress and risk is minimalized, where we try to control all the, we not try to control all the variables of our life, we try to make our life as predictable as possible.
Mm-hmm.
The more we're stuck in these comfort zones, the more we are risk adverse. And risk adverse could be as simple as asking a girl out at the bar. Like, it starts off where we don't want, we have a bad relationship, and then we go and ask someone out down the road, we get rejected, and we start building this unconscious bias that this isn't safe, this isn't good, because you felt bad afterwards. And these different areas of our life, that's just one example, where we have this negative impact, so we avoid it for comfort, and then we don't allow ourselves to grow, and we become avoidant of it. There's a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, and he talks about trauma, life,
Any
insecurity.
relation?
Yeah, right?
Any relation to you? I mean, your name's Michael also.
Yeah, right? But he talks about a brushing against a rose bush and you have a thorn in your arm. And what you do is you realize it hurts. You got a thorn in there. And so now you start bandaging it up. You try to avoid bumping it because you know if you bump it, it's going to hurt. And what you really need to do is pull the thorn out. There's one of the universal laws, the law of correspondence, I believe. And it states that it's, the best analogy to put it in is, if someone is riding a horse for the first time and they fall off the horse, if they don't get back on that horse and show themselves they can do it, they end up becoming fearful of it. And the comfort zone is very much that. You fall off the horse, or there's an area of life where, you know, you had a rough day, you blow off your friends, now you feel guilty, so you have fallen off that horse. And it starts compounding on itself because you start feeling that thorn getting bumped, and you're like, oh, that's not comfortable. So, I thought that was a good analogy for that.
It is. But this kind of thing kills our self-esteem. It kills our confidence. And it does it in such a way that you don't see it until it's almost too late. And for many people, they feel like it's too late, right? And this is why our minds and our brains crave this, right? Especially when you add to that the power of these more dopamine-driven habits.
Yeah, it's so true, though.
Scrolling on the phone, eating your favorite food all the time.
Yep. Well, it's trying to go towards the feel good, right?
Right, of course, because you have to feel good all the time to be comfortable.
Yeah.
Which is actually not true. I was being sarcastic there.
Well, and I would even say this is very much something that leads people in the comfort zone. I know for me, I had no drive for a decade. I had all these aspirations, but no drive to do it, and I never understood why. I'd get these little boosts of energy where I'd try to conquer my demons and get out there and put myself out there. And there were some learning lessons I got out of that, which was great. But when it came down to it, I was smoking pot all the time. I was watching TV and playing video games all the time. And it's not necessarily just the time element there. It is the fact that I was getting my natural rewards through instant gratification. Dopamine is literally the chemical in our brains that is supposed to help us strive for motivation through feeling good. Yeah. You know, our ancestors would go hunt for food, and when they got that kill, they would have that surge of dopamine. They'd feel accomplished. They would want to go out the next day and catch something bigger.
Right. Well, but familiar equals safe, and safe equals survival.
Yep.
If I keep doing this enough times, then I will survive. I'll be fine. I'll get to eat. I'll have clothes. I'll be able to... And our brains love this cycle.
Yeah. You know, and I think...
But what we run into is a problem with our brains distinguishing between safety that actually protects us and safety that suffocates us.
Well, and you're absolutely right. Our brains don't know good from bad. It just knows safety. And unfortunately, safety is that illusion, right? It's just like we've been talking about this whole episode so far. We think safety is feeling comfortable, when safety is expansion, it's growth, it's overcoming these challenges. And we live in a society where we have all these different things put in front of us to help us distract us from these obstacles. You know, again, the video games and TV. I know I'm not the only one who binged that every day as a way to escape from my reality because I knew internally everything was going to hell. But I was comfortable. I didn't have to look at it. As long as it wasn't impacting me in this current moment, I didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
Check engine light in the car, right?
Yeah, don't. Oh, we all ignore that because it's just better to ignore it.
Yeah, the car's still driving.
Yeah, exactly. And all you can see are dollar signs because fixing cars are expensive. But it's this illusionary cloud that makes it hard to see what the path beholds, how it unfolds. If we are living under this illusion all the time because it feels better, well, it's going to block your growth, and you're just going to settle. And then you'll start settling in more and more and more places in your life. Before you know it, you're going to look back and you're going to have regret. Have you ever met an old timer who had regret?
100%. One thing I got to bring up with that comment is you look at all these. If you're feeling called out right now, it's okay, because most people will if they're really honest with themselves. You see all these people who are in their old age bitter or just lost on what to do. So many people have fallen into the trap of comfort, and they still don't even realize that's what's kept them stuck this whole time.
Yeah, settling.
Yep.
Settling. And, we talk about this kind of topic throughout. It's kind of sprinkled like the salt guy, like throughout all of our episodes, because it is an important aspect of on this path, and paths that are similar, is that from time to time you must feel some pressure. You must feel some so that you don't stay too long.
Yeah. It's one thing I was thankful of. I remember going through all this trauma I went through the last couple of years, and I luckily had always had that mentality of when you're going through hard times, it's a good thing because you're learning. It's just a learning experience and pushing you and making you grow. But it's like, I remember when I went through all that, realistically, it all could have been avoided if I would have started moving sooner. It was like the universe's way of being like, we're going to throw you in a fort. Since you're not keeping yourself warm, we're going to throw you in the heat, and you're going to have to temper that steel because you let it get rusty, you let it get dull, and you did this to yourself.
Yeah. Decay comes from complacency.
Yeah.
The type of comfort we're talking about is what that axiom is warning us against. The axioms aren't here to tell you what to do. Many of them are warning signs. Decay comes from complacency. And that slowly dims our light. It slowly robs us of truth. It slowly robs us of real connection, true connection with others.
And personal strength.
And ourselves.
I mean, it's like I said, I know so many people right now, and I watch where their lives are at, and I see how much this is at the heart of so much of their suffering. And they feel so trapped. Like, I love how you phrased it earlier, where it's like a window that slowly narrows. Mm-hmm. And eventually, I can't say it closes, but it definitely gets where you have to bust down a wall to break free. And
right.
I know a lot of people who are at that point where they need to start hammering against that wall, and some of them are, but it's only cracking it. The comfort zone is not for the faint of heart to take on, but everyone should. Almost
as if you have to break out of prison at some point.
Nope.
And that prison is of your own construction. Remember I said, I don't remember if it was last show or not, or the show before that, but, we have these stones. We can build prisons or we can build bridges to what we're meant to do. So this is one of those things where it starts to shrink around you. And it starts to get really, really tight. Off the air, I was saying how, when I think about this kind of thing, it reminds me of being in a straitjacket or something, where you got, it's like some Harry Houdini or something, where you have the straitjacket, but it also has chains and locks around it and stuff. And, nobody ever puts on a straitjacket on purpose unless they're Harry Houdini or some other magician without a way out. But like we were saying earlier, this starts to shrink around you without you even really knowing it, because you'd rather feel safe. You would rather avoid. But avoidance breeds more avoidance, doesn't it?
It's so true, though. I mean, again, like I was saying earlier, it starts off as this little resistance you have, where it's like, man, this was a horrible experience, but I can do this. Then you get that next rejection. Or it could even happen at this level where it's just you're pain adverse. You know it's going to be uncomfortable. You know your mind's going to start spiraling. I remember that was one of my biggest areas I struggled when it came to talking to girls. I thought I was alone when it came to, I go to a party or I go to try to talk to a girl and my mind is just going insane.
No, I think we all do that. I think the list would be smaller for people who don't.
I agree, by far. By far. There's a couple people born with that gumption, but most of us know. You know, I know we're kind of diving into it, but it's like the mental health repercussions of the comfort zone. And this is something for you to analyze. Am I in a comfort zone? Like, if this is something you're not really thought about, as we go into the mental health effects, ask how much you are suffering from any of these. So you were talking about avoidance.
It's like a muscle, right?
Yeah.
If you don't use your muscle, what happens?
Atrophy.
Atrophy. And for those of you who don't know what atrophy is, it weakens. It loses its strength. You know, if you don't walk enough, you know, if you, for some reason, you can't move around too much for too long because you're injured or you were in an accident or something, you have to relearn to walk sometimes. You have to relearn to do simple tasks. And it's not so much that you're, you know, relearning, but you have to strengthen those basic muscles. So when this thing is left unchecked, even small steps can feel overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And over time, like I said, it tends to shrink, and the less we challenge ourselves. Also, this goes back to what I was saying in our last show, or the show before that, about echo chambers. Echo chambers are a comfort zone environment, right? You can't grow if you don't at least entertain other perspectives. You don't have to agree with them, but to entertain them. But these things that you kind of are under the illusion that are manageable, conversations, taking a risk, or answering the door when opportunity knocks.
No.
You know, after too long, you start to feel threatened because you've grown accustomed to not having to deal with these things because life is hard. And sometimes it's just better, we feel like it's better to just kind of, you know, blinders, as you said.
Yep.
And for some of us, the blinders are out here where we can still see, but they shrink and they shrink and they shrink. And eventually you're kind of like this, where you only see half things and you only see half truths and you can only hear the sound of your own voice after a while. And the greatest lie ever told is the one we tell ourselves. So what are some signs? What are some ways that we learn to become aware of this?
Well, you brought up the most important one, which is avoidance. If you are avoiding something over and over, whether it's dealing with family, hanging out with friends, going out and getting out of the house, you know, looking for a job when you know you're not happy at your job, those are some great examples where you can see avoidance in your life. Or you're not exercising when you need to. You know, anxiety. Anxiety is another big one. You start feeling anxious all the time because you know you're not doing what you're supposed to, is the simplest way to put it. It is the slow buildup of discontent energy because you know you have potential and you're not rising to it.
Right.
There's also depression. Man, I tell you what, I know so many people who are suffering from depression. A lot of them that I was referring to earlier that are stuck in the comfort zone. And part of that depression is they have no idea what they want to do with their lives. And it breaks my heart for them because I know what that feels like. But I also know the only way to discover your purpose is to stop doing what you're doing. If you're stuck at home all the time and you're wondering what to do with your life, get out there and go figure out what you want to do with your life. Go do things. Go experience things. Go figure out where you just flourish and glow. Again, we talk about flow state on here all the time. Justin and I, we have very busy lives, but we can podcast twice a week because it's something that we get in flow about. No matter our energy levels, we can keep showing up and getting into this. And you kind of touched on this earlier, but identity erosion. You know, again, how you're talking about self-worth, self-esteem. I mean, it's like the more you stop doing what you're doing, the more you start to doubt your capabilities. And the more you start to second-guess yourself and what you can do. I love this quote I heard a couple months back, and it just resonates so much with this. And it is, the magic you are looking for is in the work you are avoiding. And it rings so true with this, because I know for me, when I was in the comfort zone and it was surrounding me and I felt there was no way out, I knew how to get out. I just didn't want to take those steps. If you sit in your bed and you ask yourself, what is the one thing I could change right now that would make my life better? You sit there silently, it will come to you. You will get your answer. You just might not like it.
Right.
That was another quote by Jordan Peterson.
Well, and you start overthinking, and you get paralyzed by that. You plan and plan and plan and plan, but never finish anything or never even act in some cases.
Yeah.
Because you give yourself an out by saying, well, we should consider this, or we should consider more, or this isn't right. The other day, you and I were talking about some features of the website, and we were going back and forth. And I had talked about another practitioner that we are friends with, and we've worked with before on the show. And I was like, oh, well, they use this, but it's like, we were going back and forth to the point where, okay, I had to stop for a second to say, all right, let's just remember not to overthink this or overplan this, because if we do that, we're not ever going to actually do it, right? So,
yeah.
But we get lost in that. We get lost in that need to be perfect, and that's another thing that we should talk about here. Was trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
The need for perfection kills a lot of things. This overthinking and this analysis paralysis. I love how that rhymes, by the way. I went through that a lot when I was first trying to put the book together. I had all these teachings and all these things, and I rarely ever taught with written materials. I always just taught like this, kind of really old school. And then I thought to myself, man, I really should start writing some of this stuff down, because if I fall over dead, then I gotta hope that somebody was listening. But
yeah.
but when I went to go try to put all that together, there was just too much, and it was overwhelming. And then I started overthinking it, and it took me a year and a half to write that book. And then and the only reason the book got published when it did finally was because I said, you know what? I don't care if it's perfect. If people like it, they like it. If it resonates, then it resonates. If not, I'm okay with that.
Well, and there's one other area of perfectionism that a lot of people fall into. I've been guilty of this, and I see this. So I talked about how I see people are just so trapped in the comfort zone, they have no direction. Then there's like what I call the next level. And this is where I was most of the time, where it's like, I know I want to do something. And so I would have all these plans to do these different things. But the perfectionism in me would be like, I need to come up with the perfect plan to execute the plan. And I probably made 100 revisions of different business ideas or different approaches I wanted to take to life. You should see the steno notebooks I would make for New Year's resolutions. That'd be 50 pages. I would have exercise routines. I would have calendars to mark off my success. I would create these perfect little things to get my life in order. And that's not how it works. I mean, it can for some, but you got to get some momentum first at the least. The number one cure is action.
Yes. So what's the thing that you call it the void? I prefer to call it the what? Do you remember? The field of possibility?
The field of possibility.
The field of potential, right? And this shrinking of these comfort zone we're talking about robs us of that. It starts to look like a void because out there is scary and in here is safe, but opportunities start passing you by, right? And it has nothing to do with how capable you are or not, but because fear tells you to stay put. Settle for good enough. Yep. It's safer that way. Don't risk failure because, it might actually be safer, but how do you grow? Let me ask you this. We're just going to say that fear is at the root of this.
Yes.
How fast, or maybe not how fast, scratch that. And if fear is like a symbiote, like from Spider-Man, right? Like the Venom symbiote.
It's a good way to look at it. Okay, I'm following you.
All right. But at the root of that is fear. And eventually, you're wearing a fear suit. How dangerous is fear at the root of this? And how do we start to fight back?
It comes back to that universal law I brought up. It's the law of correspondence. Again, I'm pretty sure that's universal law. But fear is rationalizing away why you can't do something. Fear is the thing that whispers in your ear that something is wrong, that something is bad, or that you are not capable enough to handle it. And that suit can take you over in one instance. You can go ask that one girl out at the bar, and she shames you, says you're stalking her, whatever, and that suit's going to be over you like that. And every time you want to go talk to a girl, that suit's going to take over you, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, Am I coming across creepy? Am I this, that, this, or the other? And the only way to overcome this is not creating the perfect pickup lines or
Right.
or having the perfect approach to how to talk to a girl. It is action. And you know what? When you take that action, you're probably going to suck. Point blank and simple. But you're building the muscle memory that you are capable and that you are safe doing it. So you take the action, you learn. Keep taking the action, because that's how the comfort zone works. We push against it, and I promise, that first time you go and ask a girl out, and you might get told no then, it's going to come full force. See, I told you, this is exactly what was going to happen. You're not going to be good enough to go after a girl like that. So it's going to inflame. You're going to push on that bubble, and it's going to get really angry that you're fighting against your comfort zone. But if you keep pushing, if you keep being willing to say, screw you, I can do this, I can learn. You take that action, you will get better and better each time. I've brought this up before. When I was in high school, I was told they were probably going to have to send me to a home when I got out of high school because I had such horrible social anxiety. And I did. I mumbled, I couldn't speak up, I would just keep my head down walking through hallways, I couldn't socialize with people. And when I was told that my junior year, I was like, I have to have a change of life. I cannot have that happen. Yeah. And so I went to the mall every day. I would ask 10 random people what time it was. That's where I started. Then it started being, all right, cool. Now I'm going to try to have a conversation. Hey, how's the weather today? I think that was most of my conversations at first. Mm-hmm. And slowly, as I cultivated
everybody's got something to say about the weather.
Dang straight.
Especially here in Colorado, where it changes its mind at least 6 times a day.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to lie. That did kind of help with the whole motion of going through it. But, yeah, it took action. It took getting out of my comfort zone. And, yeah, my mind would scream at me, what are you doing? You look like an idiot. Why does anyone want to talk about the weather? All right, you don't know how to have conversations. Like, no, I can do this. Just focus ahead. Don't listen to the thoughts and just go. And most people wanted that handshake is what I call it. It's the way I approach with my clients is everyone wants to get to know everyone. For the most part, most people will say they hate other people, but realistically, it's just because they don't want to have to deal with making the handshake. It's just going up, hey, I'm Mike. How are you doing today? So that's my advice. Action. Continuous action.
Well, and that takes us into kind of some of the mental health impacts of convincing ourselves that it's better to just keep to ourselves, keep our head down, not say anything, or get stuck in those really comfortable places, right? You were just talking about this severe avoidance that you were doing. Now let me ask you, when you were doing everything you could to avoid that discomfort, did the fear go away? Did it magically run away from you?
Hell no.
Or did it grow?
It grew at first. Like I said, it was, especially when I first started doing it, and even then, but the anxiety I felt, I realized was just a magnification of what I already felt. That same anxiety, and when I'd walk with my head down, please no one talk to me, please no one talk to me. And it would be anxiety I felt all day at school. But, yeah, it grew larger when I went to go against what it was telling me. But as I started to, it would grow really big, and it slowly got less and less of a hold on me. And even now, it hasn't gone away. It doesn't mean I don't still have moments where I'm like, I don't want to socialize right now. I feel like a weirdo. I went on a walk yesterday after doing tons of homework, and I'm all listening to music, and I'm walking down in the nature trail, and I almost trip over a girl sitting there looking at the waterfall. And it was just the most awkward moment, and she screamed and looked up at me, and I'm like, I am so sorry, and I just turned around and kept walking, because it was just like, I don't even know how to approach this right now. And that's totally fine. I didn't judge myself for it. I wasn't like, wow, you must have looked like a real creeper. It was just like, hey, I had a moment. It's okay.
Right. Well, maybe she shouldn't be sitting in the middle of the path either. I mean,
I was kind of trailblazing. It was slightly
Were you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Shame.
I like to explore.
Shame on you. We don't do shame here, do we?
Nope. That look in her eyes, man, I was like, oh my God.
Well, and this is going to go off top potentially, but so I won't let it go there. But this is fear personified into every aspect of every part of our lives. We were talking about this in the last episode about letting the ills of the world consume us, and it's not super dangerous to have other people walking on a path. at the very least, maybe you're rude for not paying attention, right?
Yep. Yep.
But just because you dare walk in the same spot, you scare somebody. And I know I'm going to get an angry letter from somebody saying, don't diminish, people with traumas. I literally don't do that every episode. I mean, traumas are real. Yeah. But you have to find balance eventually. So I'm not victim shaming. I'm just saying, maybe cut some people some slack. Maybe not realize that everything is the boogeyman. So anyways. Yeah.
Oh, there's so much I could say to that, and I know you don't want to go down the tangent, so I'm going to just... You are absolutely correct.
But anyways, going back to this anxiety and these cycles of avoidance, every time you stepped away from putting yourself out there, the world got smaller. How small was the world for you when your head's down and you're not talking to anybody, and they're telling you, well, now we're going to have to lock you up because we don't know what to do with you because you literally can't function. The world gets really small, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, at that point in my life, it's like I grew up doing tons of sports. I was in 3 sports programs at a time in my young childhood. At that point in my life, when I got to high school, I was the lost child when it came to family system. So I would be in my room. I wouldn't go spend time with my family. I would bring my dinner down to my room. I stayed away from my family. I would socialize a little bit on the weekends, but that's about it. I wouldn't go out and do things. I didn't like going out and doing things. Right. I was just hyper antisocial, and I was constantly lost in my own little world, which, I mean, we talk often about how important community is, because we can't be our only friend. Because 9 out of 10, we don't have nice things to say about ourselves when we are in a bad place in life.
Right. So there's another axiom that I'll share that reminds us, it's going to remind us of something, but not in the way that you might think. The edge is lost if the blade is sharpened too much. Moderation is the key to balance. So in the same way as if we sharpen too much, we make the sword brittle, right? Yeah. We make ourselves brittle, and we make ourselves unable to function and to serve our purpose. But in the same way, never sharpening leaves the blade what? Dull. And it rusts because it's not being used for anything. Growth is what keeps our identities alive, our authenticity, our authentic selves alive, fresh and sharp, right? Because another thing here is that we lose our purpose, or we stop caring about our purpose, which is a really, really sad place to be. Yeah. Right? And in the way of Ashla, staying stuck is more than just a mental health struggle. It puts us in spiritual danger. It dims our light or our truth. And it just doesn't, it's not something that's stolen from us, but it slowly, quietly fades away until we start to forget that we ever carried it in the first place. Because we talk about spiritually that much of this, what we're talking about, that we talk about all the time, and much of our teachings are about remembering. Not me teaching you something, helping you remember. Because this stuff never leaves us for a million lifetimes. The source of all creation, including ourselves, it's never abandoned us. It's never away from us. We just forget, right? Yeah. So when we do this, we start to forget because, again, it's just better to live under the illusion of safety and security than it is to breaking free. How do we do that? What is the power of breaking free from these comfort zones, from this straitjacket, from this prison with a tiny window? I'm
going to throw another axiom at you.
Let me have it.
All right. So we talk about how you go through these adversities, you slowly convince yourself you're not capable of doing these things. And more you start to shun your potential and what you can do. Perception creates reality.
Perception 100%. Is reality. Absolutely. Yes.
And if we are lost in our perceptions of how the world is and how we are in that world, when we are constantly telling ourselves, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable of that, I'm just going to get hurt again, that will become your reality. Like I said, how like if you're trying to push yourself out and you're probably going to mess up the first time, it's because right now you're operating from that reality you've created. You are working through these things you've conditioned yourself to believe and behave in. And so the more you start doing that corrective action, the more you start to shift your perspective. And it might not be going from, I don't know how to talk to girls, to I'm a ladies' man. But it'll go from, I don't know how to talk to girls to, I at least know how to say hi to a girl at the bar, to, hey, I
Right.
can have a conversation with that girl over there, to, and it builds on itself. But you got to understand perception is reality, and the only way to change your perception, it's more than just having that aha moment of, I can do this, because it's not as simple as that. You got to believe it on a visceral level, and the only way to viscerally believe it is to change the information you feel when you are in challenging situations, like triggers. You get triggered when you are having a fight with your partner. And so you feel triggered, so you either go into anger or shutting down. Well, if you learn how to communicate effectively, that trigger is going to decrease more and more because you're teaching your body that it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly how you break through the comfort zone. Through that repetition, you will slowly change your perspective, and you will viscerally feel less triggered when you do these things.
And this is why discomfort equals growth.
Yes.
And why we encourage it within our teachings. And here's a paradox. We haven't done a paradox in a while.
No, we haven't.
But here's the paradox. The very thing that we avoid, discomfort. Notice I didn't say suffering, but I definitely said discomfort. This discomfort is a doorway to transformation. We get better through moments, and I'm not saying be uncomfortable your whole life, but these moments that push us along are doorways to transformation. Because as you said, our nervous system is built to adapt when it is challenged. This is how we level up. We talked, I used the analogy before about Skyrim, right? How you got to jump a bunch of times to increase your athleticism. You have to use a bunch of spells to enhance your other, the mana
Magic,
abilities
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah, magic stuff. So our nervous system is designed to adapt when it is challenged. Every time we push past our limits just a little bit, our system learns, and it grows stronger, and it recalibrates, and it brings us to a place where, okay, our new is here, right? And it goes like this, little by little, little by little.
Yeah.
And they call that neuroplasticity, don't they?
Exactly, yes. And you look at it, think of it as like 3 layers. You have the comfort zone, you have this area, the stretch zone, and then you have the panic zone. And hitting the panic zone isn't a bad thing, but you gotta make yourself get in that stretch zone so you can start making that panic zone smaller and smaller and smaller. And it's gonna feel like there's just this like thin line between panic and comfort. But that's okay, because the more you push against it, the more you get into that safe zone of feeling okay while you're pursuing these things that trigger you.
Right. But that's where the opportunities are.
Yeah.
It's in between those, because we've been talking about the comfort zone all day, but the panic mode is where, or the panic zone, I think you called it, where that fear just overwhelms you, and it shuts you down, shuts down growth just as bad as feeling or being in the comfort zone.
Yep.
So,
that's when that perception starts becoming reality, right?
Right. And of course the goal isn't to leap into panic, because that doesn't do us any good, but to live as often and moment to moment to be in that stretch zone, as you called it. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. There are things that do happen in comfort that we encourage people to do, but not for long. We talk about being very retrospective in those moments where you do have a break, where the world's not ending, but you're also not lying to yourself, and absorbing the wisdom or absorbing the knowledge and absorbing your experience as you're leveling up.
Yeah.
It's okay to be comfortable there. You should be comfortable with that. But again, we're talking about balance, right? In that green zone, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Being in
Well, it's
the
kind of
green,
like that analogy, or not analogy, but what I was talking about I did earlier, where it's like, I knew I needed to cultivate the ability to talk to people. I didn't jump in saying, let me go talk to a stranger. It was just, let me go ask the time. And the first time I did it, I stumbled all over myself. I felt totally awkward. As soon as I got done, I dashed out and went and got out of sight. But I realized after that, all right, what happened there? All right, I want to take a deep breath next time. And I was able to do it and not feel too awkward. And then after the talk, I went and dashed around the corner again. But slowly, I gained that confidence and the competence to handle it. Again, it's like playing guitar.
Yeah.
You don't go pick up a guitar and you're like, I can play Stairway to Heaven. No, that takes hundreds and hundreds of hours of practice to get you to that point. And that's okay.
Right.
Give yourself grace.
Most people wouldn't practice past 15 minutes. So
Yep.
if you can go an hour, that puts you way ahead of the curve.
It's the truth. I mean,
and that's true for most things, right? Most people quit very early on in anything they do because it becomes uncomfortable. You think the first podcast I ever did back in the day was just awesome and it was comfortable and it was safe and all that stuff?
No.
What about the 100th one I did?
Oh, I bet it felt natural at that point. Still had kinks to work out.
It was a little better. It was a little better, but I was still bouncing around in between that comfort zone and that panic, right? Because that's where we grow. That's where we get better. And I'm sure there's someone out there right now that says, yeah, you're still not that great at it. That's okay. Because I'm going to keep bouncing in between these two zones that we're talking about forever and ever and ever. Forever and ever. Because I understand the real life transformation that happens when we do that. And when we consciously do that. Right?
Yeah.
So I've left toxic relationships. I'm sure you guys have too. And I know you have.
Yep.
It's really crappy at first. It's uncomfortable. But now look at you. You're free. You're healed, Michael.
Yeah.
And you are a long ways from that kid that couldn't even look people in the eyes, which is crazy for me to hear because when I first met you, you weren't like that either.
Oh no! Once I got out of that comfort zone, I became a ladies' man and I became a social butterfly. I love people.
You did, right?
Most people meet me and they're like, "Wow, you're a real extrovert." I'm like, "You would think that. You would think that."
I was very suspicious of you. I was going to detain you and ask you questions like, "What are you up to, bro?"
You're little. No,
but
I respect that.
Or that person that takes that leap of faith into a new path, a new career. It's got to be terrifying in the beginning, but once they get in it, once they kind of land on their feet, they're not doing no superhero landings, but they're hitting the ground and they're standing up and going, "Wow, that was really scary to jump out of that airplane, but thank God I had this little parachute that floated me to the ground." And now they take off running, right? So these transformations happen every single day for those who just go for it.
One thing just to throw on that, just to show it, I'm sure anyone listening can think of someone in their lives who had a good paying job who was miserable. And they left that job, probably even took a pay cut. Yet they were so much more happy and fulfilled.
Yeah.
They call it the golden handcuffs for a reason. And it's like you think, I'm making this money. My life's too good for me to mess this up right now. Lo and behold, I'm going to go work at a general store or something, and I feel 1,000 times more fulfilled in my element, and I'm not feeling like I'm killing myself over this.
Yeah. We know someone. We interviewed them on this show. I think it was one of our first actual video podcasts, when Shannon was telling us her story. Shannon from
Soluna.
And I didn't know her then, but I know her now, and she glows. She absolutely glows.
Yeah.
And that comes from her, because she had the golden handcuffs. She worked a very high level job and stuff, and she's just like, go listen to the episode. I'm gonna butcher it, but yeah, she told us her story there because I had asked her straight up, you took this leap of faith. You guys are doing this thing. And it may not be, it's clearly not traditional way to earn a living. But when you see them in person and when you see them in their element, not just in, the podcast, but when, you and I went to an event and when you see them in their element, oh my God, those two just glow, don't they?
And they spread it to everyone there. I've never felt anywhere that felt more like home. And it's because they're in their element, their purpose,
because they're bouncing around in between those two areas. Because it almost seems crazy to think, well, I've been doing this for so long. I've been doing this job for so long. It's what I know, but I would really love to do this other thing. But then you fall into panic mode because you're like, oh, I can never do that. How am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Lots and lots of people felt that way, and then lots and lots of people end up like Shannon and Marissa.
Yeah.
And they kill it. They kill it every day. And
every
what's crazy
day.
is, what's crazy is they absolutely love their life now, and they love what they do for a living. So,
and you can too.
You can too. Yes, I can. You can. You can. And
amen to that.
It's not that our teachings are such that we say growth always comes through tension, but most of the profound growth that we're going to have does come through tension and that heat and that pressure, as long as it's embraced in balance, right?
One of the other universal laws, the law of wisdom, which is it states that you can avoid all your karma, you can avoid all the challenges you're going to face in your life if you're able to grok the wisdom to avoid those pitfalls you will fall into along the way.
Yeah. There's another axiom that this reminds me of. The master can continue to give indefinitely, for his or her wealth is their knowledge, their wisdom, and experience. And as far as I'm concerned, these 3-4 important things on this path, and paths that are similar, knowledge, wisdom, experience, are forged only by stepping into that stretch zone and staying there for as long as you can.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, because one thing to also note with this is, yes, the comfort zone will shrink around you if you don't notice it and it takes over, but you will run into times in your life where you are just burnt out, beat down, and you're exhausted. And your comfort zone will shrink, and that's totally fine as long as you're willing to jump into those stretch zones again and not let it dictate your life. You have the time for recuperation. You're going to sort of have to dust off the cogs, but you can get life back into control. But it's okay to end up doing this. It kind of oscillates anyway, right?
Yeah. Moderation is the key to balance.
And as you're going through this, replace I can't
I know it
with...
sounds like... I just wanted to add something real quick. I know it sounds like we're saying, stay out of the comfort zone. Don't ever be comfortable. Don't ever panic. Don't ever, what we're really at the end of the day, being comfortable and being secure and being safe isn't the enemy. It's ignoring the rest of your being. It's ignoring your path. It's ignoring your purpose. So you can chill in these little chill zones for a time. It's probably good for you to do that. Just don't linger too long. Never linger too long.
Yeah.
Balance,
and that is the key right there. Because you do have to have time for rest, for reflection. But, yeah, don't let it close in around you. And when you start catching yourself in this, especially if it's really deep and it's surrounding you and you feel claustrophobic, replace I can't with what if. Start looking at the narrative you're telling yourself when you're going through these moments where your comfort zone is trying to stop you. Go through it with curiosity instead of apprehension and feeling inadequate.
So what are some practical strategies that we can use to escape the trap?
Shifting your narrative. If you reframe, like I was saying, fear is curiosity. If you're able to take, oh God, I don't know how to talk to girls. I don't know how to talk to girls, but let me learn. Let me go ahead and practice. There's no way I could make it through college. That's where I was. I was like, I can't do college. That's never going to be a thing I do. I do not have the brains for that. You know what? Let me give this a shot. Let me start somewhere simple. Hey, I'm going to go ahead and take woodworking and psychology. That's what I did. I did 2 classes that interested me just to get in there and see how it was. And it ended up being really good, so I kept going. Micro challenges. Start small. That's a big one. Again, like we're talking, you don't go from thinking you don't know how to talk to girls to being a ladies' man overnight, but manageable steps. Resilience. Yeah. You
got to build that resilience. Every little act of discomfort will build that over time.
Yeah. If you don't leave your house, if you feel constantly stuck at home, don't make your goal to go on a big outing with your friends. Make it, I'm going to go to the park today. If you... Because
that's going to suck when you just jump right into it like that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, that's when you're going into the stress zone instead of the stretch zone. And, I mean,
right.
if you deal with social anxiety, which I think is more something that we develop than it's a personal issue. I know we talk about introverts and extroverts, but like when it comes to social anxiety, it's because you get in your head when you're around people. So start small. Don't go straight to the mall. Again, the park is another great place where there's just a couple people, go walking and realize no one's actually watching you.
Nobody cares, yeah.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
Which I laugh,
they don't.
I have been that person. Like I said, when I was head down in school, it's because I was like, oh God, everyone's watching me. Just keep tunnel vision. Oh God, everyone thinks I'm awkward. And it was really just what I thought about myself. I just projected it on everyone else.
A show of hands who has never sang karaoke because they thought people were going to laugh at them, or didn't dance because they thought people were going to laugh at them, right?
Yep.
Me?
I've broken that wall. I forced myself. It was uncomfortable as hell.
But I mean, at some point, right? At some point, but because you realize that nobody cares how you're singing and nobody cares how you're dancing.
Yeah. So we going to go do karaoke, right? Justin?
Sure.
We'll do it live.
There you go. What about building a good team around you? Good solid people who hold you accountable. Is that something that can help us get out of this?
Man, I've seen a lot of people deal with this where they have those negative influences in their life. They talk about people are like crabs in a bucket. And if you're with these people in your life and you start making change in your life, they're going to be trying to pull you back down to their level. You know, you deal with people like that. You also deal with people who are passive aggressive or just they're shaming. I've seen it where they have friends that'll just tell them they're not good enough. Tell them all the things that they believe about themselves. And since they already believe that, they don't think it's a bad thing. They think, oh, this guy's just being real with me. It's like surround yourself with people who support you, who want to help you grow and see the good in you. And take these people and you can either have them hold you accountable and help push you in the direction you need to. Like, hey, I'm struggling getting out of the house. I need to go and do things more. Can you kind of drag me out of the house from time to time? I've had someone recently do that, and you know what? It's like, I got you, man. Like, that's not an issue. Like, I know how it goes. You know?
Yeah.
Another big thing is, like, you gotta have measurable goals. I know for me, again, it was Monday through Friday during the school week. After I got off of school, that's when I went to the mall. That was a little excessive, but I was also a very excessive person when I put my mind to something. That's just how I've always been. But set SMART goals, right? SMART goals are one of my favorite things in the world. Specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timely. And you don't have to write this all down. I know I kind of ran through it. Just Google SMART goals. It is the most effective way to set goals and follow through, you know?
Yeah. And something we harp on every single episode because it's always at the forefront here. Mindfulness and self-awareness, right? Because it's really important to notice when comfort is actually avoidance, to know the difference, to practice mindfulness, do the pause, breathe, and then ask yourself or act upon something. Am I choosing rest or am I hiding? Why am I doing this? Why did that trigger me? You know, there's a million questions, but it's important to pause to know when you need to ask yourself these questions.
Yeah. What I think most importantly with that pause is when we're triggered, you gotta pause and analyze the situation. Am I really not safe? Is this really something that's gonna end catastrophically? Or is it just avoidance? Am I just being avoidant right now? Really evaluate yourself.
No.
Your mind will tell you otherwise, but your mind's just trying to keep you safe. You are not your mind. Your mind is a computer that knows how to run itself.
Right. You just have to keep your antivirus on and not allow yourself to be hacked by unimpeccable things. And of course, as far as our teachings go, I always like to kind of tie this into what we teach and how we teach. But these few things we listed, don't think of them as just like these self-help hacks, right? Because you'll find this stuff in like every book, self-help book. We consider these types of things and many others to be disciplines of the light. These are disciplines that we practice. Every small little step, every little unfolding, every story that you reframe, every mindful choice. It's a way of reclaiming yourself from fear. As this axiom reminds us, agonizing over a situation to resolution provides limited gain and comfort. The price you pay long term for not letting go will be great.
Perfect axiom for this.
So, and you know, And that's really, all I have for this topic today. I know we're going to move into our prayer and our affirmations and stuff, but it's really important to find balance in this. It's okay to be comfortable and safe. Obviously, we want everybody to be safe and secure, but not at your detriment. Not safe in a way that you're in echo chambers or you're in these places where you're not able to grow, because you do yourself no favors that way.
Yeah. And above all, give yourself grace. Wherever you're at is where you're at. You have to meet yourself where that is. And when you do, with love and compassion, really evaluate where you're at. Often I know when I was in the thick of my comfort zone, I thought it was at least a little bigger than it was. But don't be afraid to be honest with yourself. And above all, don't judge yourself for where you're at. This is life has dealt you a hand of cards, and you did the best you could with the tools you had, and now it's time to get better tools, which is what we're offering throughout this episode. So, shall we dive into the affirmative prayer?
Absolutely.
Let us close our eyes. I release the limits I once placed upon myself. I am safe. I am capable. And I am ready to grow. The universe supports me fully as I step beyond fear and into my highest potential. Every challenge before me is an opportunity for expansion, and I welcome it with an open heart. I trust the wisdom within me, and I choose courage over comfort. I am guided, I am powerful, and I am free. And so it is.
And so it is.
For our affirmations today, I choose growth over comfort, knowing expansion begins where fear lives. Every step I take outside my comfort zone, builds my strength and confidence. I release fear and trust myself to handle whatever comes my way. Discomfort is a sign that I am growing, evolving, and becoming my best self. I am brave enough to chase my potential and create the life I desire. For exercise today, one small discomfort challenge. Go ahead and grab a journal, pull out your phone, go to your notes, just write this down. What is one area of your life you feel stuck or stagnant? It could be relationships, careers, health, personal growth. Just pick one. Now, pick one small action you've been avoiding. Something just outside your comfort zone, but not overwhelming. If it's going to the gym, make it going for a walk today. If you are not doing any exercise, just go for a walk today. That's what I'm doing right now. I have been dropping the ball in exercise. So instead of hitting the gym like I wanted to, I'm starting with morning walks just because I need to build the habit. I need to build the confidence so I can do that. Self-trust is real. So find something that is the next step. Don't look at the goal, look at the next step of this discomfort and how to start expanding this comfort zone. Some other examples: to speak up in a meeting, to go send a message to a friend that you've been putting off, to try a new hobby that you've been secretly wanting to go and experience. Next step, commit and reflect. Do it within the next 24 hours. No excuses. I don't care if you're working 12 hours tomorrow. You can go tonight or you can go tomorrow. Go and just take that action step. It can be just, if it's being around people, I'm going to go to the bar and talk to 3 strangers, or I'm going to spend 20 minutes there. Make it small, make it manageable. Afterwards, write down how you felt before and how you felt after. Also, what you learned about yourself. For our journaling prompt today, where in my life am I choosing comfort over growth? And what is one small step I can take this week to change that? What am I missing out because I'm choosing comfort over change? Thank you so much for joining us today. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucem.
Ad Lucem.